All right, Rory, let's start with this. How often do you talk about your playing days?
Not very often. I mean, and that's what, my family, and even the ownership group here and some of the kids, they want to know actually what I did in the past. It's like for me, I just like working with the kids. I just want to give back to them and, it's not about me, it's about them.
When you do get a chance to talk about it, is it something you're just super proud of, or what are the emotions there?
I mean, it brings back great memories. And, once I start to talk about it, then I can't shut up because I'm reliving, all the basketball experiences I've had. So it's great to start sharing. It's just that you have to get me to open up about it. And then once I open up, then I just go on and on about all the experiences that I've had.
So take me back, South Alabama, right?
Yes.
Take me back to getting into the NBA and how that went down.
I went to South Alabama, and the thing is that, my mom was like, get a scholarship, you're gonna be able to go to school, get a degree and the whole bit. So at the time, I had no clue that I had an opportunity, to get to the NBA. So it wasn't until like my sophomore year in college when I got Player of the Year in the Sun Belt Conference that it kind of clicked to me that, I may have a chance to get to the NBA here. But before then, I just played the game and just loved it, had no clue about making it to.
Career timeline, drafted by the Suns, is that right?
Drafted by the Suns.
Traded to the Clippers?
Yes.
The final year they were in San Diego, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who were some of the big names from your time with the Clippers that people might know?
At the time, Bill Walton for number one, because he's actually from San Diego. So, and, that's kind of one of the reasons why, they had a team there in San Diego. So, I mean, I played with Norm Nixon, which, after his career with the Lakers, he ended up coming, to the Clippers playing. Cedric Maxwell, is another name. Actually, I'm trying to think here. You're taking me way back here to try to think of some of the guys. I think I mentioned Marcus Johnson, that, was from UCLA. Junior Bridgman, which was there. So Derek Smith, which was one of the guys that really, as myself, came in, trying to make the NBA, which made a name for himself, that went to Louisville. So, I mean, that's where he really got his big start. So, I mean, it's, I'm just, you're making me think back here, which is really good, of some of the, the guys that I played with.
So, for me growing up, the Clippers were always an LA team, right?
Yeah.
So what was that move really like? Especially with the Lakers were already in LA, Clippers decide to move there. What was that like being so inside of it?
I mean, it was really weird and strange because, after the last game of the season, and I think it was back 82 or 83, Donald Sterling was the owner of the team. So he just came in after our last practice and he said, just to let you guys know, I'm moving the team to LA. So everybody is looking around like, we're going to LA? It was like, we got roots here, our kids were in school, and that's just the way it was, because back then, he was like driving from LA to San Diego to watch games. So he's like, I'm tired of driving, so I'm moving the team to LA. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's really crazy.
That's wild.
Yes.
So then, after the Clippers, then where?
After the Clippers, then I actually played a lot overseas. I mean, I played from Italy, Spain, Belgium, Argentina, Israel. So I kind of just toured the circuit, and playing basketball. So I have to say, if you really love your job, I mean, it was fortunate to me. Basketball has taken me all over the world. And for me, I mean, I can't, be happier than still to be able to be involved in it.
How much did playing overseas shape your perspective on life and just shape you?
No, I mean, just seeing culturally, I mean, that was the big switch because, you know, I had a tutor, not a tutor, I had an interpreter that, because when we went over there now, you know, pretty much everyone kind of speaks English here and there, but when I first went over in 87, 88, you know, it was hard to, you know, relate to the team, to the coach, trying to go to the grocery store, you know, just trying to eat in a restaurant. So, but I did have a interpreter that was able to help me.
So then the switch from playing to coaching, how did that go down?
That went down from when, you know, during the end of my career, I actually came back and played in, it was the CBA, which was the Continental Basketball Association. You know, eventually it went to the D League and now it's the G League. So I ended up playing here in Fargo. It was the Fargo Moorhead Fever that I joined and started playing. And at that time, you know, I was a little bit older and, you know, I wanted to get into coaching. So I was more of a player coach, you know, for the Fargo Fever, you know, when I started playing. And, you know, that worked, it worked. And then after the Fever left town, you know, I met my wife here, so I ended up sticking around, and then that's when the FM Beez came in. So the owners here, they knew me from playing, the owners of the Beez, they knew I was still in town, so they approached me and it was like, hey, you want to get into coaching? I was like, hey, why not? I'll take my shot at it. And so that's how it all began, of me getting into coaching.
Wow, okay, so can you share the story of how you met your wife?
Oh boy, it's a great story. You know, we may beg to differ on some other things, but as I was with the Fargo Fever, we practiced at Coach Plus. So, and she was working out at Coach Plus. So that's how we met. So it was just one day, you know, she's on the treadmill, she's walking on the treadmill. So I just went over and said, hey, you know, would you like to go out to dinner? And she was like, well, of course. So, you know, because she was working out, I thought she was just being kind to me and just like, I'm working out, get away from me. So I never approached her again. So 2 weeks later, she came back. She was like, well, what about that dinner? We're supposed to go out. And I was like, well, I just thought you were being nice to me. She was like, oh, no. So that's how it all transpired that we met at Coach Plus.
So then you coach with the Beez, right? And then you end up coaching with the Clippers. How did that go down?
Well, that went, I mean, I coached the Beez for 3 years. You know, we won the championship in my first year and my third year. So, you know, I wanted to kind of advance on. So then that's when I took an assistant coach job in Idaho, or the CBA. So I ended up going there, being an assistant coach there for a couple of years. And I ended up being the head coach of the Idaho Stampede. So after a couple of years there, then my agent during that time, we hadn't talked in years because, you know, he represented me as a player. He represented me going overseas and playing. Never knew he was still watching what I was doing. So all of a sudden I get a phone call and he was like, you know what? I think I got an opportunity in the NBA for you. He said, you won't believe it. It'll be with a team you played with. So, you know, I'm thinking Phoenix Suns because that's the team that drafted me. He was like, no, the team you played with, you know, for 3 or 4 years, the LA Clippers. So, I mean, it's crazy how it goes full circle. It's like I played for them, and then now I'm back as an assistant coach for them. So, I mean, words can't explain, you know, what that meant to me to be able to go back and be on the staff of the Clippers.
Was that like a I've arrived type moment for you as a coach?
It was, because for me, you know, I had been on every level, you know, from high school, junior high, college, overseas, and then finally played in the NBA, and then now all of a sudden I'm sitting on the bench as a coach. So it's like a dream come true. I mean, I can picture it any better than that, from going to each level and getting to the highest level that you can be, and that's in the NBA.
So then why come back to Fargo?
Very good question, but it's because during that time I met my wife Julie. You know, at the time we wasn't married, but you know, we're engaged and my fiance and the whole bit. Hey, I love Fargo. I mean, it's, you know, the winters are kind of brutal, but now not so much. But, you know, everyone has treated me here very well. You know, I've never had any problems, and, you know, they embraced me as a family here, and, you know, and I was like, I want to be here. This is a place that, you know, you can raise a family and, you know, everything just goes really well.
What do you think college Rory at South Alabama, thinking about maybe playing in the NBA, what do you think he would say to know that you made Fargo, North Dakota home?
It would probably be, what were you thinking? And I left one story out because, you know, how I arrived in Fargo to play for the Fargo Fever, it's like I was in the CBA during that time, so I got traded from Oklahoma City to the Fargo Fever. So at that time, you know, I had to go back to LA because I was living in LA at that time. Just packed a little stuff up, jumped on the plane, so I had to go through Minneapolis to get to Fargo. So I'm like dressed probably like I am now. You know, I'm at the gate, so the people there, they were like, where are you going? I'm like, to Fargo, to play for the Fargo Fever. They was like, do you know how cold it is there? They was like, where's your coat? I was like, well, this is it. They was like, you may want to rethink that. And once I landed here, the next day I went to Shields and I bought the biggest coat they had in the store to keep myself warm.
Did you even own a big winter coat before then?
Not. I just had like a nice little, you know, jumpsuit, warm-up suit, you know, that you wear around. But it was an experience. I was like, I was like, I wanted the heaviest coat you got. Had 4 around the hood that I put on. I could zip it up, so that was awesome.
Tell me about this chapter in your journey, getting to work with the younger kids and getting to work one-on-one and having Fargo be home. How much are you enjoying this chapter of your life?
This is the best chapter of my life right now because it's giving back. You know, when I was, you know, growing up, we actually didn't have opportunities like this to come in and have, you know, a facility like this. We played outside. We played on concrete. We played with the chain nets, sometimes no nets at all. So I didn't have an opportunity to experience camps like this. So for me, I just want to just give back. I just want to just come in, help the kids, boys and girls, to be the best basketball players they can possibly be, but not only basketball players. I want them to be the best person, you know, he or she they can be going out. You know, because I always stress to them, you know, athletics is good, but once you're done playing athletics, you know, no matter what sport you're in, you're gonna have to deal with the public. You're gonna have to get out there and be a social person. So I try to talk to them about, you know, the experiences I've had on and off the court to help them to be better, not just basketball players, but also to be able to deal with the community.
How cool is it for you and how rewarding is it for you? Like, when you get to work with one of the girls' basketball players, and then you get to go watch them play varsity basketball, maybe they use a move you taught them. How rewarding is that?
Oh man, that is the best thing ever because you go through the summertime, you go through the fall of getting them ready to play, to try out for a team, to make a team. So once they make the team, that's exciting for me. But to see them go out on the court and really do the things that we've worked on. I mean, and I tell them, always tell them, I'm so proud of you. Because my thing is that, you know, I'm teaching you, but it's just like construction. You know, if you're gonna build a house, I tell them, it's like, you know, I'm just giving you the frame of the house. You gotta go in and build the inside. You gotta do the things that you need to do to be, you know, to put that house together. And it's the same thing on the basketball court. I'm showing you what to do. So you gotta take that out on the court and build your career as a basketball player.
So let's go back in time now that we've kind of walked through, you know, chapter by chapter. When you do talk about your playing career, what are kind of the first couple stories or moments that come to mind?
Well, the best story I have with them is that, you know, my first year, 82, drafted by the Phoenix Suns, and at that time, John McLeod was our head coach. So we had to fill out like a questionnaire on, you know, who's your favorite player that you grew up idolizing. So quite natural, mine was Dr. J. So I wrote down Dr. J. So at the time, you know, they have so many coaches now that as my rookie year, we had to keep stats. So we sat down, we had to keep stats. So if he called you, you had to go in the game, play, come back in, and you were keeping stats. But my first game in the NBA was against my childhood idol, Dr. J. I didn't know that the coach was setting me up for that to see how I was going to respond to play against my childhood idol. So all of a sudden, you check in the game and you're like, oh, I got to flip the switch here. I idolized you all this time, but now I got to compete against you. And I can remember him shaking my hand. He was like, welcome to the NBA. And I thought his whole head covered my whole arm. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got to compete. And, you know, quite naturally, he schooled me, but I was able to compete against him and not idolize him. And that's what Coach McLeod was looking for, you know, in me to see if I was going to compete against him. And then after that game, I was able to gain more and more playing time going, you know, further on in the season.
And you reached a point where, you know, you were averaging double digits points-wise.
Yeah.
When you think back, you know, what was going right for you?
I mean, it's just listening to a lot of different veterans, you know, that when I first came in on how are you going to be successful, you know, in making it in the NBA. You know, one of the guys was Dennis Johnson. You know, another one was Maurice Lucas. When I came in for training camp, they was like, you know, we know you're a fourth-round pick, but your talent is there, but you got to do the things the right way if you want to make this team. And one of the things was getting your rest, not hanging out, you know, in training camp, being prepared, be the first one on the floor, the last one to leave. So, and it boiled down to, it was myself and I got to think of his name now, was Charles Pittman. He was in Maryland. He got drafted in the 3rd round. I got drafted in the 4th round. So it came down between us making that last 10th spot on the roster. Now it was only 10 spots then. Now you got 15. So it's harder to make the NBA back then. And one of the things that I had going for myself is that I listened to guys like Dennis Johnson and Maurice Lucas. And so when the coach came in, you know, and said, you know, who do you guys think? Because it was so close between us. And the thing is, we were roommates during training camp. So we had to battle against each other, go out and eat, you know, go back at night and talk to each other. And the determining factor was those guys. They were like, you know, we've talked to him. He's met all the expectations that, you know, of being on time, not hanging out, you know, and doing the things he needs to do to make this team.
So is that part of this then, that so many guys poured into you, you know, when you were trying to find your way, that giving back is so important to you now?
It's more important to me now because, I mean, the knowledge that they gave me and the insight they gave me on making the NBA, that's what I want to do now with the kids now. Whether, you know, it's making the team, getting some playing time, or just being involved in the team. I mean, those little lessons that I talk to them about, I think takes them a really long way as far as, especially, because I mean, most of the kids we work with now, their main thing is, you know, we got tryouts coming. We got tryouts coming. What can I do? What do I need to do? And my thing is, you have to open your ears and listen to the coach. You know, you just can't be on the sideline goofing around. So the more you're attentive to what the coach is saying, you know, your chances are going to be better in making the team.
Any other stories that you usually like to pull out?
Oh, I mean,
I'm sure there's hundreds, right? You could probably do this all day.
Hundreds of stories, but I think that is probably the most important one of, you know, listening to, you know, the players that have been there before you, just listening to them and gaining their knowledge. So that's the knowledge I want to pass on to the young kids here, to try to make them, successful. Everyone is not, going to make it to the NBA or the WNBA. You're not going to do that. But as long as you're having fun and you're going out and you're like, hey, last year I didn't make the team, but this year I made it. So for me, that's the rewarding part, that when they finally get there and make it, they are happy about it. But it goes on and on. I was like, yep, you just made it, but now what are we gonna do? Now you gotta wanna try to be a part of the team, try to contribute to the team and help the team win. And when I mean contribute to the team, it doesn't mean you gotta score, double-digit points or get a lot of rebounds. It could be cheering. It could be, just encouraging your teammate, to be there for them. So just because you're not playing doesn't mean you're not valuable to the team. Everything that you do, you're a unit, you're a family, so you can't take anything for granted.
Let's go back again. If you could talk to college Rory, what advice would you give him?
That's a tough one, because when I first went to college, I had no, as I spoke earlier, no idea of, making it to the NBA. I was just glad to get a scholarship and be able to play. And I would just think, just to really, even though I made it to the NBA, probably I could have worked a little bit harder, where instead of going in the fourth round, I could have been like a first or second round pick. But, I was just happy to be there, enjoying the basketball, and just playing. And, and I tell the kids now, things happen when you least expect it. And that's what happened to me, because I didn't go to college with the mindset, I'm going to make it to the NBA. I was just happy to be there with a scholarship and being able to continue to play basketball. So I just think if you dwell on certain things, it kind of weighs on you. But when you just go out and have fun and play, it happens when you least expect it.
And now, still married to that girl you met at Courts Plus?
Yeah.
Grandkids?
Grandkids, the whole 9 yards. So it's like now, so I got to get the grandkids to playing now. I mean, they're all 10 years, all the way down to 6 years old. So we got some time. They like soccer and other things, which is awesome, but I'm basketball minded. So I want to try to get them in.
Is there a sense of pride? I know you don't necessarily like to advertise their history, but is there a sense of pride in all that you've accomplished?
No, it is. It's a great sense of pride. It's just that I'm just low key, and I don't really, and I don't want to say brag or just talk about the accomplishments that I've been through. I like just to show on the court, what I'm doing and lead by example, because even our game last night, we did North against Red River. I walk into the gym and, the one kid comes up to me and is like, "You're Rory White." I was like, "Yes." He said, "You played in the NBA." I said, "I did." I mean, so that's rewarding to me to, that kids research, what I've done. I don't advertise it. I just come in here day in and day out and just work with these kids. I don't tell them that I played in the NBA, because, you kind of, you start to get idolized a little bit, and that's not what I want. I want them to look at me as just like them, just teaching them, getting them to where they want to be.
Cool. Anything else to add? Anything else you'd want people to know?
Man. We don't have enough time. We would be here all night, if I shared all the different stories. But, I just like to say, with my high school coach, my college coach, I mean, they're a big inspiration of me getting to where I am. Not just as an athlete, but as a, a human being. And, it's like you want to be treated, treat others the way you want to be treated. And that's been from my grandmother to my mom to my coaches, and that's why that I like to do with these kids. That's my message to them. Treat others the way you like to be treated.